Good morning, sir. We are the group 4, and our topic is all about cultural relativism. So, when we say cultural relativism, is the idea that a person's beliefs and practices should be understood based on that person's own culture. Proponents of cultural relativism also tend to argue that the norms and values of one culture should not be evaluated using the norms and values of another. What is cultural relativism? Cultural relativism refers to not judging a culture to our own standards of what is right or wrong, strange or normal. Instead, we should try to understand cultural practices of other groups in its own cultural context. So, ang gipasabot diri is natay sari-sari nga culture kada country. So instead na atuwa i-judge ilahang culture kay dili ta ganahan or dili sulod sa atuang gusto ang ilahang pamaagi, why not to adapt, understand and study about sa ilahang culture. Studying others' culture is additional to our knowledge. That's all. Next reporter.
Good day everyone. I'm Delcoro Joshua Kinilitan and this is my assigned topic which is different culture have different moral codes. Often is used as a key to understanding morality. So ang moral code of a society sense determines what is right or wrong within that society. Example, if the moral code of a society says that a certain action is right, then that action is right at least within that society. Another example, if naataan ang actual nga panghitabo, then ang person nga gi-interview is iyang gisulti tanan is about sa nahitabuan ng adlaw. So, dili na tana mangutana og lain kay kita mismo kung unsa iyang gisulti mao man sab atong nakita. The next is proponent argue that there is not as universal truth in ethics. There are only the various cultures codes and nothing more. So, there is no objective standards that can be used to judge one societal code better than another. The moral code of our own society has no special status. And the customs of different societies is all that exists. For example, these customs cannot be said to be correct or incorrect, for the implies we have an independent standard of right and wrong by which they may be judged. So that's all about my assigned topic. Thank you and God bless.
Good day everyone, my name is John Philip T. Desales and I was assigned to discuss the two types of cultural relativism, the absolute and critical cultural relativism. In absolute cultural relativism, most lang believe that everything that happens within a culture must and should not be questioned by outsiders. Meanwhile, in critical cultural relativism, question cultural practices in terms who is accepting them and why, as well as recognizing power relationship. In short, in absolute, dili ta mo question about sa ilang culture, while in the critical na pwede ta maka-question about culture na ilang gi-practice and nganong mao na ilang gi-practicean. That's all and thank you.
So, what is the importance of cultural relativism? Cultural relativism is the ability to understand a culture in its own term and not to make judgment using the standards of one's own culture. The goal of this is to promote understanding of cultural practices that are not typically part of one's own culture. Using the perspective of cultural relativism with the view that no one culture is superior than another culture when compared to system of morality, law, politics, etc. Knowing the importance of cultural relativism has a lot of purposes for our life, especially when you prefer to go to other places with different cultural aspects. It refers to not judging a culture to our own standards of what is right or wrong, strange or normal. Instead, we should try to understand and respect cultural practices and traditions of other groups in its own cultural context. Thus, the goal of this is to promote understanding of cultural practices that are not typically part of one's own culture. Nevertheless, there are also limits to cultural relativism. Human rights, freedom, and justice are few examples of those limits. Many people in generations are taught to respect and to not discriminate other cultures and traditions, but they also need to be prepared to share their opinions, to fight with, and criticize when the cultural practices or traditions infringe upon human rights or justice. So it is really important if we had our own senses, knowledge, and open-minded to help the world promote the strengths of cultural relativism, which is to make greater diversity and understanding of ethical differences against this judgmental society.
How important is cultural relativism in your daily life? Cultural relativism it can help to understand different cultures better and to learn from them. It can also help to reduce tensions between different groups. Cultural relativism is also important because it allows people to accept different cultures while still respecting their difference. For example, naay mga tagalaing nasod nga ni anhi sa atoa. Then ang ato nga culture is ang pagmano sa ato katigulangan. Then need nila na nga i-adapt sa ilang nga kaugalingon aron na mapakita diha ang pagrespeto sa usag-usa.
Good day, I am Arnold Rubidinella. I am the next reporter. I'm going to discuss the assigned parts of the report, which is the some example of cultural relativism. The gesture of extending one's hand to shake the hands of another person as the way of greetings. Pagpamano, Filipino time, inability to say no. Being both religious and superstitious, rare use of first names. Typically, table utensils are spoon and forks. Greeting someone with "Have you eaten?" So, okay, this picture showing shake hands. Knowing when to shake hands is also an important part of using this gesture effectively. Handshakes have traditionally been a prepared greeting in a variety of contexts, particularly upon meeting someone in the first time. Like for example, in our school, in grouping, they want to shake hands our members that they show he or she is welcome from your groups. This second one picture, which is pagmamano, is the one of the some example of cultural relativisms that showing their greetings, which pagmamano is in Filipino traditions to show respect to the elders. The term in Tagalog word pagmamano comes from the root word manu. Manu is performed as the sign of respect toward elders and as the way of accepting a blessing from the elder. It is usually done towards those who are older from 2 generations or more. For example, a niece will perform a mano gesture to her aunt, similar to kissing a hand. The person offering a mano will bow towards the offered hands and press their foreheads on the hands. Sometimes they will ask mano po to the elders in order to ask permission to perform the gesture. It is usually performed when visiting an elder or upon entering house or gathering. Although the mano gesture is still widely used, some Filipinos have replaced the gesture with beso-beso or a cheek-to-cheek kiss. So, greeting someone is the vital part of courtesy and goodwill. Life was a series of greetings and farewells. So, we must understand, accept, and respect the difference of cultural relativism. By the way, again, this is Arnold Rubio Dinella. And that's all my reports. Thank you.
These are some examples of cultural relativism. So, number one is the gesture of extending one's hand to shake the hands of another person as a way of greeting. So, sometimes in other countries, they do this as a respect to another person para mag-greeting or welcome nila ang usang nga person. So, there are also countries nga lahi ang ilang definition ani. So, ang way nila is for example, sa Thailand, greetings are accompanied by gesture known as Y, which is the placing of two hands together with fingers touching the nose. So, a Y indicates the level of respect for another person and is an acknowledgement of seniority. A person should bow their head with their palms pressed together to indicate respect. So, not all the countries have the same meaning sa ilang greetings or pag-welcome sa tao. And the second one is pagmamano. So, pagmamano, you can only found this in the Philippines. This is a way of showing respect to the elders. So, mostly, Pilipino ra jud ang gabuhatan ni kitungod sa nadala na nato sa atong tradition, culture sa mga sinauna. So, pagmamano is means of showing respect to the elders. The third one is Filipino time. So, this is also one of the traits of the Filipinos. So, pag ingon gani nga na ay meeting or something nga buhaton activities nga buhaton by group, Filipino time, it means nga kung magtakda mo og oras or for example is 1 ang meeting sa inyong oras niya, mostly Filipino mo abot 2, 3 or 4 ana. So, mao jud na Filipino time sa ibang bansa or sa lahing nasod ang ilang wala sila ginaingon nga Filipino time. So para sa ila is ang time is important. So kung ilang giset ng oras mo ato jud sila anang orasa. So the fourth one is inability to say no. Mostly also Filipinos nga tungod sa generosity or hospitality sa Filipino, sometimes dili ta kadili kung naabay favor ang usang nga tawo or na siya i-ask. So, tangdo ra ta nga oo ra jud. The fifth one is being both religious and superstitious. So, I think based ni sa history sa Philippines also nga na conquer ta sa Spanish na nadala nato ang ilang religion. So, also Filipinos are superstitious from our indigenous beliefs. So, sa mga sa pre-colonial, nadala po nato ang ilang mga beliefs. So, both religious and superstitious ang Pilipino. Mutuo sila sa religion, mutuo pod sila sa mga haka-haka or superstitious. And sixth is rare use of first names. So, sa Philippines, mostly ang ginagamit pagtawag sa tao is angga or nickname sa tao. So, rarely use of first names lang talaga sa Philippines. So, sa ibang bansa ang ginagamit nila is family name kung tawagon nila ang tao. Next is the seventh, typical table utensils are spoons and forks. So, sa Philippines food, ang mostly pag na dinner or mangaon na ang gamiton jud is spoons and forks. So, sa gawas ang mostly gamiton nila is knife and also fork. Kay ang knife gamit nila para sa pagputol sa karne, kay mostly dili man sa lain naso dili sila ganahan og rice, mostly karne ra ila or vegetable, maong knife and fork ra ilang gamiton. And the last one is greeting someone with have you eaten. So pag na gani tay bisita diri sa Pilipinas, una jud natong pangutanon kung nakakaon na ba sila, kay para tagaan nato sila og higayon nga pakaunon. So sa gawas, I don't know kung nabay sila pareha ani nga way nila sa tao, kung na sila sanina sila mga bisita kung pakaunon ba dayon nila. Pero sa ato adjud mao jud ning way nato nga basta naa gani bisita pangutanon jud nato nga have you eaten or nakakaon na ba ka, no nato ay kaon sa diri kay naikuan ana. That's all, sir. Thank you.
We could decide whether actions are right or wrong just by consulting the standard of our society. In colonial America, slavery was okay. Women were not allowed to vote or own property. Primogeniture was practiced, etc. Therefore, things were right. So sa una, sa America colonial slavery, ang ilang patakaran dito or ang ilang standards sa ilang society is ang mga babae dili pwedeng makabotar or makaon o property like mga yuta, mga balay. kay mo standard sila hang kon sa una, society sa una. Sa ato karon is kuan ning pwede na makaraan ang bahay or even or to the higher level like president, then pwede po sila makaon og property like makaon sila og house, lands, or bisan unsa, or in other words ang bahay is kuan same level or same standard. Next reporter please.
I'm Olaris Angeline Ihara and this is my report. The idea of moral progress is called into doubt. Progress implies doing things better, but cultural relativism rejects making judgment about the past eras. Reform movements such as rights for women and minorities that implies modern society is better a judgment that is impossible to make. Therefore, the idea of moral progress is called into doubt means that a culture could not evolve to become even more moral than it once was. And again, they could never be considered morally wrong by another culture in the first place. Because cultural relativism implies this judgment makes no sense, the argument goes, it cannot be right.